Just a warning before we dive into the video. This is a Momcozy video, and it's about a brand new pump. So, I just wanted to let y'all know it is longer than the average Momcozy pump lasts. So, bear with me. If you hang through the entire video, I promise you won't be disappointed because there is just so much to cover today. Happy New Year. I hope everybody is going into 2025 excited. We are going to have a nice chit chat about Momcozy. There is just so much to talk about, y'all. I'm actually kind of excited about it because if you remember, I will link it above, below, somewhere. But May of 2024, I actually put out a video talking about Momcozy ripping off Willow. And so we were looking at a bunch of patents and kind of going through a bunch of their stuff at that time. And I'll be honest, it didn't get very much traction. I don't think a lot of folks really saw what I was seeing. I also think that with time, because they released other products, that everybody just kind of thought I was crazy. But it is coming, I'm telling you. The new pump that they are all excited and leaking, little tidbits here and there is the Willow knockoff. And not only did they knock off Willow and do it poorly, to be honest, now they've ripped off UV S1 Pro. And I'm just like, oh, good Lord. So we have a ton to discuss. We're going to walk through their manual for the brand new pump. I'm going to show you photos of the pump because we actually have a paper trail with testing photos and all of that already in. And we're going to talk about just what is Momcozy up to? What are they really and truly going for? So I'm actually going to start there. I'm going to start with that as the opening because I think it's really important for us to understand what exactly is Momcozy doing. We already know that they have a horrible reputation for not honoring their warranty. We know that they're extremely predatory. They will prey on just anything and everything about a mom or a family with a newborn just to invoke the emotion to cause you to buy. Like, it's a very predatory company. Now they're making changes. And I'm not trusting them. I'm not saying they're good yet. It's going to be a long time before I ever recommend a Momcozy product. And we'll get into that another day. But they're being a little sketch. So, we all know Momcozy for a pump that's going to die really quickly. A lot of flopped products, to be honest. And they kick out products very quickly, like suspiciously quickly. As well as for the fact that it's always some type of just Chinese knockoff. But now they're trying to come out with like actual products, which is interesting. They're still ripping everybody off. They're not actually being innovative and they're not doing anything actually on their own, but they're doing better quality. So some of their newer pumps are lasting longer. The chiller that they kicked out is actually performing, and it beats out like Willow milk chiller. The bottle washer, watch Jessica with Genuine Lactation. She'll end up doing a review and all on that. But she's testing their bottle washer and everything. And yeah, like there's some concerns and stuff there. But it's not their common product. So it's already kind of standing out. We're also having a lot less complaints about warranties. Not that warranties are completely being honored, because they're not. And especially for the older pumps that Momcozy kind of just wants to disappear and shove under the rug, they're for sure not doing those moms right. Like, there's a whole lot going on there, but they're making small little tweaks and small little improvements that are just enough to stand out as to what they're doing. But they're also in a ton of lawsuits. And that's the crazy thing. Some people are suing them, but mostly Momcozy is suing others. So one of the big ones that we've talked about in the past was Momcozy actually going out and suing LV. One of the suits that they did, because they ended up doing two. They did an initial suit, and then they did like a parallel. The parallel one was dismissed. It got canceled out basically because it was ruled they didn't have any evidence for that. That got sent on its way. They also, in October of 2024, it looks like, because keep in mind, Momcozy is just a Chinese company. They have about 10 different Chinese company names, and you really have to search all their names to track all of the lawsuits that they're doing because they're being kind of sneaky about it. But at the end of the day, it's all Momcozy. For example, we know that Momcozy did their baby carrier. Well, in October of 2024, they went after Ergo Baby. Why? Ergo Baby's been here. Ergo Baby didn't take anything from Momcozy. Momcozy hasn't even been trying. Momcozy is what I call a Me Too company. Me Too company as in they did a product, it was successful, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to make a product and make a fast buck and then turn around and go to the next fast product. They're just a Me Too company for mom products and baby products. They're not actually being innovative. But to actually go out and cause a lawsuit, which did get terminated, I will say that. It has already been canceled out in December. Based on that, they voluntarily dismissed it, essentially. So they voluntarily withdrew. But why bother? Why bother suing them? Momcozy is a small potato company that we've all known. Why go after LV? Just like their LV one. So this is one of them. But this was the parallel suit that they did. So the secondary one. But this is just for y'all. On just the conclusion was that there wasn't any foundation there. They canceled it out like the court did. They didn't find anything there. They still have the initial one going, as far as I can tell. But the secondary one has been canceled out. Why, as a small potatoes company, are you going after big companies like LV and Ergo? Why are you trying to poke a bear, essentially, with things that you know you can't win to begin with? Most of these are patent claims. Momcozy is never going to win a patent claim against LV. If they do, I will be genuinely shocked and have to deep dive into that, because at that point, they would have to be suing a different company from the same manufacturer, and it's just a manufacturer patent. Like, it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense because of how these pumps are being produced and how the manufacturers are, because the manufacturers own set parts of every single breast pump out there, without a doubt. The companies can create and innovate and have their own like parts and design and things like that. Absolutely. But something comes down to the manufacturer, which everybody's kind of allowed a piece of that pie. So this just doesn't make sense. Why go chasing after the big dogs, especially when you're losing? So they also had a lawsuit with Kendra Bravely. I didn't print out that one because that one gets a little confusing. Kendra Bravely has actually lost, it looks like, but then possibly filed an appeal, and it looks like either an extension has already been requested or that has also been denied. I'm not quite sure because there's so many court documents going on, it's a little confusing. It's honestly comical that Momcozy or Kendra Bravely are suing any of the companies. My big question there is, why chase the big dogs? Why pick that fight? The only thing I could think of is if they're really trying to make a name for themselves and actually branch out and be a big dog themselves. Like, do they actually think they're already there? Do they think they're equal? Do they think that this is going to somehow knock their competitors down a peg and then they'll be able to, like, branch into the market as a higher value pump? I'm not sure. It's just really suspicious, especially when you consider the fact that they're being a little more cooperative on customer service. They're being a little more cooperative on the warranties. they're having pumps last a little bit longer than 60 days. So it's just interesting when we're trying to piece all of that together. But it's certainly not a company that I would trust. Because at the end of the day, even if they are trying to branch out and be a big dog themselves, they're not innovating. They're just going, me too. I can make that. Me too. I can rip that off. And even the products that they're creating is not what consumers are wanting. They're not actually listening to consumers. And I'm going to prove that with this next pump. So Willow Go, let's just go ahead and grab their pump. Willow Go is this big old hunking thing, right? We've got the flange. You've got the little clip-on container here with a duckbill. There's a giant diaphragm here, and then this is your motor. All in all, when it comes to washing parts, you've got 5 parts, 6 with an insert. That's really not too bad. And consumers are already complaining that they have to wash that many. Consumers are already upset that they have to wash 6 parts. So you've got a pump that has already minimized that as much as possible. The parts are all large, so as you can tell, like they're hand sized. They're not easy to lose in the sink or in a tin or anything like that. Like, they're large, easy to find parts. And consumers already don't like that. So what has Momcozy done? Momcozy went out and started figuring out how they could loophole the Willow patents and try and make their own. Going back to they're making changes, but they're still being sketchy about it. This is one of those changes. Momcozy has actually yet to send a pump in for FCC testing or FDA approval, anything like that. Any of the paper trail, any of the you're supposed to's on time. And what I mean by that is the pump is already on the market in Mom's hands before it is ever tested and approved. And sometimes the only reason they're approved is because they're using little backhanded deals to compare it to a different pump that, of course, they're going to be able to beat out that pump. It's not actually proving safety. But this time they're doing it differently. So if you can tell here, this is one of their, again, multiple names. There's only one listing here. But the listing is for the Mobile Flow. So their gray pump that they kicked out in 2024. It's not officially listed on the FCC website. I'm assuming it's not because, of course, they requested a confidentiality. So they want all their stuff hidden. And they don't want people finding it. Which, why bother, Momcozy? You're ripping off other people. We're going to be concerned about somebody ripping you off at this point? Momcozy, nobody's trying to rip you off. I can promise you that. You want to know why? Because you can't make things easy. So let's look at this pump, shall we? This is your Willow Go knockoff. So over here, you've got the flange. This is the milk container where it's going to house all of your milk. This is the motor. All right, so it's supposed to look all simple and whatnot, right? When it's fully assembled, this is what it looks like. Again, going for a Willow Go vibe, but we're going for pink instead of clear. Kind of silly. What you will notice is they built in a cap. So Willow literally just released caps. Well, actually, they released whole new containers with caps built in. But they're just now doing this. This pump has been out for years. But Momcozy decided, oh, we'll just go ahead and make an improvement there. We'll just add the cap in. Okay, fine. But this is your pump. You can see up here at the top, you've got the power, the plus, the minus, and then the 2 little arrows. So that's going to be your mode switch. It looks a lot like Willow Go, doesn't it? The only difference here is theirs actually says mode. And they have arrows. But it's the same thing. Power plus minus mode. It's the Willow Go, just cheaper and more hassle. anyone that owns the Willow Go also knows the Willow Go was already kind of a hassle as it is. We didn't need that to be any harder. Moving on. All right, so here, you're going to want to look at this. This is the base of the motor. So all of this is the motor, and it kind of juts out here. This is still the base of the motor. So this container comes off, instead of it being an entire container where it just comes off clean, instead of it being a full thing, it's going to be kind of catty corner. So the rest of this is going to jut out and be the motor for Momcozy. You've got that. We'll look at that one more time. And now you've got it with the flange. I hate their flanges. It makes no sense. This juts out. You can see how far it comes out instead of something that is nice and into the motor. Because of course they can't do that. That would be patent infringement. They have it jut out like this. I'm sorry. That's not already smaller than this Willow Go, and it's certainly not more appealing. Just because it's pink doesn't mean I want it. Let's talk about their manual. First of all, that thing is huge. There is so much legal cover your butt fluff in it. It is ridiculous. So, realistically, this is their entire manual. Don't you fret. I'm only going to take you through this much. And I'm taking you through the majority of this because it continues to prove that they ripped off LV and now Eufy. Alright, so what's the new pump going to be called? Momcozy Air 1. So I assume they're going to have other generations that, or they're just already setting themselves up for it. Now, to prove that I'm not crazy and that it is the same thing, if you looked at these photos up here, this is the model number. So right up here, that PB334. So this is their manual. It's all connected. All the same pump. First photo, they've got like the nice graphic up here. It shows the plug. You can see the little air spout better here versus the photos that we saw because they were a little further back. But they have the air spout to prevent like the whole explosion catastrophe that we had in the early Willow Go days when moms were plugging that. Okay, so let's walk through the assembly of this pump and just what all is here. This is your little flange cover or dust cover, whatever you want to call it. There's the flange. This is the motor, so you can kind of see that it's jutting out right here. This little thing is going to be your diaphragm. So that's that disc that you see right in here for the Willow Go that compresses between the container and the motor. That's what that does. So that's going to be your main suction point. This is the back of your milk container. That's going to be your little duckbill. So the equivalent of this. And then, of course, the cover for that. And then, of course, they're showing the charging cord, but that's not really needed. You've got all that right there. That's not really easier. The duckbill, I have serious concerns about because it's basically just plugging in and it's going to kind of just like plop down and whatnot. I'm worried about how often that's going to tear. Is that going to actually stick in there well? What are all these components? One of the issues we had with, and still have with Willow, is they did a silicone on silicone design. Milk fat and that grease likes to build up there and it just slides right in and out. What's going to happen there? How well is this going to actually secure? Because it looks like it maybe just clips. It's not looking like it maybe like goes over it, but who knows? The diaphragm, that's the words. Just, wow. The motor jutting out, that's going to have some serious issues because we already have leaking concerns and things like that with the Willow Go, and it's just flush. So when it juts out and it's literally holding the milk on top of it, what happens if your container leaks? Like, where's that milk going other than to the motor? So again, up here, it's showing the buttons. It's walking you through what they do, talking about mode selection. It's also going to have a battery light indicator. So again, just like the Willow Go. And this, ladies and gentlemen, on page 12 of their manual is exactly where they prove they ripped off Eufy. That charging case right there. Exact same setup. And I know because I have that one too. Like, that is the Eufy case. I think Eufy did a fantastic job when they did a charging case for their pump. Fantastic. But then for Momcozy to be the first one to be like, yep, that's what was missing in our Willow Go knockoff. I'm like, come on now. Come on, Momcozy. So, you will get a charging case in the new Momcozy deal. It's got the same button, indicators, all that good jazz, charging for the case. It's so comically bad. Realistically, it is so comically bad because they couldn't have even attempted to innovate. They couldn't have even made their own. All right. So this, again, goes back to kind of like the assembly of things, and it just kind of shows that milk is sitting right on top of that motor. I'm thoroughly concerned about it. It's also going through that flange. That flange is really short. They keep coming out with short flange pumps. We don't need that. We don't need that at all. And it is very concerning because realistically speaking, a lot of moms, whether it's elastic tissue or just longer nipples, all kinds of things, they can't use the Momcozy pump at that point because, well, the tunnel's too short and then it pinches and it hurts. And in some cases causes severe damage. So here's that diaphragm again. It's going to pop in here. This is where they're going to put in the little duckbill into the back of that. Basically, all this shape right here is what is hidden by the flange and the Willow Go duckbill. Like, it's the exact same thing. They're just kicking everything out a little bit smaller because, oh no, it's not the same. No, well, of course not. In terms of parts, there's not any less parts. They're smaller. And it's going to be harder to keep up with. So, again, they're not even listening to consumers because if they listened to all the things that basically flopped or wasn't loved on Willow Go, they could have actually made like a legitimate competitive pump. You know what I mean? Like, be a little innovative, y'all. Now we're just going to pick on them a little bit. Page 20 is talking about disinfecting, sterilizing, all that good jazz. Up here in the top, it says not to use a microwave or a UV sterilizer or anything that goes above 110 Celsius. The funny thing about that is while they're sitting there saying you can't use a UV sterilizer, which is actually not true, I have a video coming out on that. Their steam sterilizer that they have and sell all the time goes over their limits and absolutely will warp your parts. So don't use somebody else's stuff. Use Momcozy's, but it's still going to warp your parts because it's not going to be able to hold to the heat. Makes a lot of sense, Momcozy. Watch. They're going to kick out a UV sterilizer next. And they'll figure out how to change all this. That way you can use their UV sterilizer next. Suddenly it'll be alright. Proving more and more how much they ripped off Willow. We're going into all these details. 23 through 30. So 7 pages of almost nothing but exactly Willow content. Go look at the Willow website. Download their app. It walks you through all of this. All these visuals are exactly what you're going to see. So they're showing again up here their flange and stuff. Again, it shows a very short flange. They've got their own little sizing thing, whatever. It's still wrong, but we've got all this going here. Okay. This is basically a copycat of what Willow did. It's just with the Momcozy pump. This page is the sizing and all that. This is basically copycat across all the companies. So basically everybody does this, right? But this part right here, that's all Willow. Going into the bra, how to use it, all that, that's all Willow content. This, Willow content. I know this because Willow opted to take a ton of information from mom groups like ours in Wearable Pump Paperweight to create all of these graphics and create all of this little information. And Momcozy took them. So, down here, it's got, you need to wash your hands before you assemble the pump and all. Again, Willow does all that too. Walks you back through the assembly, right? But then we jump over to page 28 And we're talking about assembly now. So all of this is Willow to the T. It's Willow. Basically, just put that as a little Willow Go pump. You'd never known the difference. So they've got it in your bra. They show how to align it correctly and what not to do. This right here is not their flange. Their flange is circular, sticks out. It ain't clear. You can't see through it. You want to know what is clear? You know what? You know what you can see through? They couldn't even bother to edit it out. Like, come on, Momcozy, stop being so lazy. If you go and copyright somebody, do it right. Lord have mercy. And we just keep it going. Willow. Nothing but Willow right there. Last but not least, how to take it off. This is their actual pump. They bothered to actually change in for their pump here. But that technique and all was officially like created and done with the Willow pumps. Because the generations 1, 2, 3, 360 all had constant suction, and you had to break the seal to not have your nipple hoovered off as you rip that sucker off of you. That is all Willow's work. I guarantee it'll be less than a year because I don't think they're going to hold on to the pump for very long. I won't be surprised if this pump hits the market in a week or two, to be honest. If they take longer, okay, well, I guess they realize that doing things the proper way is a little bit slower. But yeah, when I told y'all in May of 2024 they were ripping off Willow, boy, were they ripping off Willow. And I couldn't have even predicted how bad the manual would have backed all of that. So you want to talk about them and all their lawsuits they're in? Willow is no better than Momcozy, and Willow is out there suing LV for crap too. Because Willow at this point can't innovate or figure out how to innovate and make their dreams become reality. I would not be surprised at all if by second quarter of 2025 we see a Willow to Momcozy lawsuit. Because it is terrible how bad they ripped that off. Alright, so we went through the deets of all that. Talking about what they're up to. Talking about what they've done. All the shadiness. Let's go back to looking at the pump. So now that we've kind of like walked through everything, this is going to be where that diaphragm and duckbill situation is, right up in here. There's your motor again, and then the flange. So, as a whole, it's going to look like this. So let's talk about some of the specs that their testing came back with and what they're claiming the pump can do. Now, of course, when the pump actually comes here, we'll test it to see if it actually matches. It typically does, but also it's not uncommon. We've even seen it with Willow where they get the approval for everything and then turn around and do a software change and tweak it a little bit, and it just doesn't quite match. So, per their manual, their testing results, all of that, this is stating what it can do. They've got the 3 modes, stimulation, expression, and then of course their mix mode that they're known for. The mix mode has cycle speed ranges from 46 up to 84, so faster speeds. Totally fine with that. Faster speeds typically do better for a lot. Expression mode cycle speeds are going to be slower, so they go down to like 25 to 60 cycles per minute. So a fairly decent range, but a lot more on that slower side if you really like those longer, slower pulls. Stimulation, they're going to have 54 to 90, so even faster. And again, that totally matches for stimulation. Not a problem there. Vacuum. What is this thing saying it can do? Stimulation, it's saying that it goes from 67 on up to 172 mmHg. Pretty good range for stimulation. Expression is stating 105 all the way up to 280. So pretty good range. Bit on the higher side for a wearable. And then mixed mode goes all the way to that lower 67 on up to that higher 280. So again, that 280 is a little higher than what we typically see in wearables, but I'm going to be curious to see how it actually performs, strictly because of the different little parts that they have. It could be enough of an air leak that maybe we lose a little bit of that and it's not as effective. Or it could be that they saw it hit 280 a few times, but it doesn't consistently get there. So either way, we'll test that and figure it out. In terms of the product life, they're guaranteeing 500 hours, which is pretty impressive. What will be curious is going to be battery life. So the battery life for the pumps and then the battery life with the charging case are two totally different battery time frames. When they talk about the charging time and everything, it's roughly going to be a little under 2.5 hours for it to fully charge based on their stuff. But they're claiming it has a 3-hour runtime. That's really impressive because that's 6 30-minute sessions for a wearable pump, which we don't typically see, and we don't typically see them being able to actually pull that off. So I'm going to be curious to see, does that actually work out that way, or are they kind of fibbing a little bit because it's going to be recharging in the case in between those uses. Therefore, until the case dies, you get about 3 hours. That's going to be something curious to look into. When it comes to the actual charging case, they did put in their own battery information there. They say that it takes about 3 hours to do the entire case, and that it's supposed to be able to charge the two pumps fully for about 5 hours, based on the way it said it. It says it's kind of weird. It's claiming 5 hours. We'll see. If it actually has a 3-hour run life and a 5-hour in the case battery life, that's actually really good. That's a really good battery life. Not enough for me to be like excited to buy this, but it's a good battery life. I know this turned out to be a lot longer. It's just because there's so much information. My biggest questions for Momcozy is, why now? Why now are you attempting to be something more? Why are you still being shady and not innovative on it? Like, do you really have to rip off other companies? Go hire an engineer. Go hire a think tank. That's what all these other companies do. Why the lawsuits? What are you doing, Momcozy? I would like to know. Y'all let me know down in the comments. What do you think they're doing? Are they actually making it better to like suddenly not do moms dirty? Because they have a very, very long track record of doing their clients or their customers dirty. Also, let me know what you think about the Willow knockoff. Do you actually think that there's any type of innovation or something new coming to it? I'm curious to see. They have their little influencers and all that run around claiming it's got a charging case and a heating element and massage and just, it's got everything, right? The testing and all of their manual and their patents prove that that is not true. But what it does have is it is a Willow Go knockoff. It has a short flange and it has a charging case. We'll see. But I hope everybody has a happy new year. Hope that kind of gives you an idea of what this new and exciting pump is from Momcozy. And in terms of, do I recommend it? Of course not. Let it kick out first. Let's actually see what it does. Let's perform test it and see how long it actually lasts before you make a consideration of whether or not that's a pump for you. But when you want to share that you know stuff about the Momcozy pump, just let them know. It's the Momcozy Air 1.